Is a function increasing, decreasing, and what are the relative min, max, and absolute min and max? To figure this out, we're going to look at a graph and first cover the increasing, decreasing constant notion. As you can see that if it's increasing, the slope's positive, decreasing, the slope is negative, and if it's constant, then it's going to be a horizontal slope. So when you look at this graph, if you were to think about increasing, you would see that you're looking for the positive slopes. Where is the line positive, rising to the right? Change in x is positive, change in y is positive as you go up. And you're going to see that at -1 and further to the negatives, it's going to have a positive slope as this goes to a negative infinity. As well, this is a positive slope from this point, 1.5x, to x going to positive direction. And therefore, all of these values are going to have a increasing value. You also have this positive slope from a -0.5 to a positive 0.5 on the x's. Where it's negative is, or decreasing, is going to be from these values and again to these values. So again, where it's positive, it's increasing. Where it's negative, it is going to be decreasing. Then we're going to go to the extrema, and the extrema is just basically talking point about what are the points at which there's a maximum or minimum. And it can be relative, meaning that it's not the highest or the lowest point in the graph. It's just relatively speaking, it is the highest at that point. So this point right here would be a relative max. This would be a relative max. And those would be the only two relative maxes, relative mins, this point and this point. If you look at the absolute min and max, you can see that as this function goes to negative infinity, as your x goes to negative infinity, your y is going to go to negative infinity as well. So there is no there is no absolute minimum, and there is no absolute max for the same reason. If I were to look at these two graphs, again commenting on the same thing, I use Desmo to snip these in. And just looking at these graphs, again, I'm looking at there is no absolute max because this is going to infinity, but there are relative max, and that's going to be this point, and the relative actually the absolute minimums are going to be these 2 points because there is no point lower than these 2 points on this graph. Looking at this graph, thinking about the absolute min and max, this is going to go to negative infinity, so there is no absolute min, there is no absolute max as that continues, but there is a relative min and a relative max. The relative min is this point, and the relative max would be this point. So that should give you an idea of increasing, decreasing, constant, and what are the extrema in a graph.